Black Power, greetings, family. As some of you have seen, there are a couple videos that have been put up by Keyanna Celina of Community Control Over the Police, falsely stating that I attacked her this past Saturday, and is actually the exact opposite that took place. As a lot of folks know, I've been doing security for certain individual and organization, and that individual this past Saturday was invited to be the keynote speaker at a rally that ended up being somewhat of a celebration for the outcome of the past election. And a little before the individual I was doing security for went to speak on stage, we were informed that Keyanna's daughter had been brought to the stage because she was lost. And because of a number of incidences we have had with Keyanna over the past few months, it was kind of like damned if we do, damned if we don't attempt to help end the situation. But the decision was made that there was going to be an announcement put out, hoping that Keyanna would hear it, or someone, who knew her would hear it and let her know her daughter was at the stage. So right before the individual I was securing went up to speak, I saw Keyanna in the crowd. And as I got the attention of people on the stage and went to point Keyanna out, Keyanna saw me pointing towards her. And she made her way over to the stage, saw her daughter, gave her daughter a hug. Then she turned towards us, and I'm thinking possibly she's about to, come thank us. But instead, she walks up to us in a hostile manner and says, y'all got to make sure y'all don't try to cut my daughter out, because she's been through a lot trying to fight to get Jackie Lacey out. So my response to her was, you need to keep up with your daughter. Keyanna instantly started going off, became over emotional, yelling and screaming, telling me, I can't tell her nothing like that. So then the individual I was doing security for was called on stage to speak. So we went up, and while we were on the truck, I looked down and saw Keyanna was creating a scene, which ended up, working out in the best interest, because there were thousands of people out there, and probably where she was positioned, there were a couple hundred people who could clearly see everything that happened. So as the individual I was doing security for finished speaking and we began to exit the truck, Keyanna started walking towards the truck. So I positioned myself between Keyanna and the individual who was speaking. And as I was helping the individual down, Keyanna grabbed my arm. So I tightened my arm to try to keep Keyanna to the left side of me, while the other individual exited the truck from the right side of me. Then as I began to exit the truck, Keyanna, as she was already holding me, pulled me to her. I lost my balance as I was getting off the truck. I fell into her. I then picked her up, pinned her down on the truck to restrain her. Other people who were standing there then rushed over to intervene. The event itself had some security out there. They came, intervened, and that is when and where Keyanna turned on her video and instantly began to lie. Anybody that was out there can validate between what the two of us are saying and tell you, what I'm saying is closer to the truth of what happened. She started saying all she did was try to come up and thank me. And, she started following us. And if you notice, people were basically shielding myself and the individual I was doing security for from her. Again, everyone clearly saw her grab me, and it was about a good 10 seconds she held my arm as the other person exited before she finally pulled me. But that happened at Pershing Square. We then marched from there over to City Hall. Once we got to City Hall, we had got back on the truck, or excuse me, as the march to City Hall began, we had got back on the truck. And once we got there, we were still on the truck. And a young brother approached me saying he wanted to talk to me. I told him at that point I couldn't. I gave him a card with my number. After we got off the truck, the young brother approached me for a second time. I still had no idea who he was. Again, told him I couldn't talk, but to call me and, we could set up a meeting or something. But then a couple minutes later, it was pointed out to me that that individual was then huddled up talking to Keyanna. So I was like, oh, okay. She's then called somebody and told them very likely the same lies she was trying to tell her following on her video. So then later I went back and I read what she wrote on the video, which was more lies. And I saw straight off the bat, she attempted to draw sympathy from all who was watching her video by stating her daughter ran off because she was terrorized, traumatized by the police. And again, yeah, that is, more than likely true. Her daughter, she brings her daughter to a lot of different events. A lot of children who are out there see the craziness the police carry out. So that most definitely is true. However, what she was doing was trying to gain sympathy, one, from people, and two, evade accountability for the fact she lost her child. So she said her daughter saw the police and ran off. So why didn't she or her husband, who she said was also out there, follow her daughter when she ran off? Very likely because they didn't see her. Out there with thousands of people, they lost her. But again, that wasn't the main point, but that was the psychology she wrote on the video to gain sympathy from all of you who see and read it. Then she stated back in 2014, I went to the home of the Ford family, Ezell Ford's family, and while at their home, I yelled that the Fords are working with the feds, which is another all-out lie. I am not going to call the Ford family to verify what I'm about to say, but if anyone communicates with them, they can tell you what I'm about to say is what happened. I went to the Ford family for two reasons. A few days prior, I had posted on social media that we were going to communities where police live. At that time, for a couple of years, we had been going to Simi Valley, different cities in Orange County, Anaheim, the city of Orange, Laguna Hills. A young brother was hung out there. We had been knocking on doors, found a lot of information, but her husband, Cliff Smith, Jubilee, as some people know him, was calling people to rally in our communities. And we were telling them a couple problems with that is, one, it has no real effect when we just rally and march in our communities. And two, too often young brothers and sisters get locked up in those protests in our communities, and they end up doing real time because a lot of our young people have prior charges. So it's not like when these other protesters come, white folks come, and they get locked up and released that night or released the next day, a couple of days later, they can afford to bail out. When our youngsters get locked up, a lot of times they are charged with parole violation, probation violation, and other charges. So we began a back and forth. At one point, an individual who they claimed was her husband's brother came and tagged the Department of Justice in that post. So when I went to the Ford family, one of the things I showed them was that an individual working with Keyanna, her husband, had tagged the Department of Justice. The second reason we went to the Ford family was to let them know that we, at that time known as Blackton 365, would respond if the police continued to harass them. We had heard some of Ezell's younger brothers were getting stopped, family members were getting harassed by the police, so we let them know whatever time it went down to call us and we would respond on their behalf. So that is a second lie Keyanna told on her video, trying to demonize myself. And then lastly, she wants y'all to believe that after hoping to reunite her with her daughter, just by her simply touching me, I just went off and attacked her. And she tried to make it seem like we was fighting. Said at one point she hit me in the face, we doing this. No, when Keyanna yanked me off the truck, yes, to restrain her from further assaulting me, yes, I pinned her down. And another reason I did that was because earlier this year, Keyanna went after another brother who organizes in the community, a leader, because of a social media back and forth. Her husband was participating in. So again, this is a pattern. Keyanna will take these social media posts to the extreme. And that particular time, she went after that brother with a knife. So just to make it short, because there's a lot more history to this, but unfortunately, these sites limit how much, how long of a video I can upload. So, just to wrap it up, we now see she's using these lies to get other individuals to come. We were told last night, an event we were at, she brought some people looking for myself, which again, y'all got my number. So all you got to do is call me if you really want to see and meet up with me like that. Again, it's very suspect that Cliff hasn't called me because he has my number. If he was told and he believed that I actually assaulted his wife, why has he not called me now 3 days later? But again, as I've told people for a long time, I believe Cliff is a new Jim Jones. The way Jim Jones preyed on vulnerable black people, especially black women back in the day, Cliff is doing that now with Keyanna, and now we see they have recruited at least one other individual, if not more, to become part of this ring of going around attacking other leadership who they have differences with. As we all know, we're supposed to put our differences to the side in order to unite, to work together. Again, they have a pattern of wanting to carry out acts of violence. And again, I say they, because when she went after the other brother with the knife, we Africa Town Coalition were called in to deal with it. And I made an attempt to establish communication with them. And after speaking with both of them, Cliff and Keyanna basically felt validated in her going after that individual with a knife, in part because they said the individual put their address out on social media. But the reality was they had already put their address out, as Cliff was running for a council seat last year, as a lot of people know. So again, it was bullshit to try to validate Keyanna being the lynchman for Cliff, going after other black leaders to try to make room for this white boy to live out his fantasy of being the white savior in our community. So again, just to set the record straight, but to also serve notice that their presence will not be tolerated. Don't show up at anything else where we're doing security. Don't come claiming you're trying to look for me. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got my number. If y'all want to set up a meeting, if y'all want me to come over there on 41st, if y'all want to come meet me in Africa Town, whatever, just call me. I'm about to send this video straight to y'all. So if y'all really want to do that, hit me up and, whatever. But any continued stalking, assaults will be dealt with as necessary. Black power.